welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. So I am gonna film my June wrap-up. I have a little change of scenery behind me. So it's 4th of July weekend. As you can tell, I like to only wear red, white, and blue this whole week. I love the 4th of July. And I have to work on Monday, so I plan to be poolside or in a boat or somewhere on the water for the whole weekend. So I thought I would film my wrap up here, and yeah, and then we'll move on with the weekend. I also have some sort of a cold or allergies. I know it's not COVID, so if you hear me sniffling, that's why. All right, so the first book that I read this month was Arch Enemies. So this is the second in the Renegade series. This was an audiobook that I finished listening to, I think June 1st. So not exactly fresh in my mind. I gave this one 4 stars. So this is just the continuation of Renegades, which is a book by Marissa Myers. It's a young adult. It's kind of fantasy. These people have superpowers, and there's one group that's in power, and the other are considered, what are they called? I don't know. They're anarchists. So, and they're kind of trying just to fight to not be part of this leader group. So there's just power struggles between them. So Nova is an anarchist, and she is undercover as a renegade. And then Adrian is also has a secret identity, but he's renegade royalty. So the two of them are kind of continuing in their secret identities in this book. It was good. It's fast moving. Yeah, I think there's one left in the series, so I will probably be listening to that in the next month or so. The next one that I read was The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. So this is the last of the Percy Jackson series. So the Percy Jackson series is so he's a demigod, so he's son of Poseidon, and he finds out and he goes to a school of the gods, or of demigods. So there's a prophecy about one of the major 3, so Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus. One of them will have a child that at the age of 16 will end the world. So Percy thinks it might be about him, and so in this book we kind of see what the actual prophecy is about. There's kind of the battle against Kronos and kind of wrapping up the story. So I gave this one 4 stars. It's an easy listen. The audiobooks are very entertaining, so I liked these. And then I read another Nightfall book by, another Keeper of the Lost Cities, so Nightfall. I think this is the 5th, and there's 9, so midway. So these are by Shannon Messenger. They're junior fiction. They are very good. They're thick, but very few words on a page, and they read really quickly. So Sophie and her friends travel to Nightfall, and they are attempting to uncover the secret projects that are happening there. And they, of course, answering questions lead to more questions, and I can't wait to see where this series goes because I love it. So I gave this one 4 stars. And then the next one that I listened to, so I think I worked a ton of days in a row. So I did a lot of audiobooks. So The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. So, Agatha Christie writes a great mystery. So there's a body found in the home of I think he's a general or a colonel, and he has no idea who she is or what's going on. And so then Miss Marple is asked by the police to help with the case. That's just Mabel letting herself out of the screen door. And now you can see her in the background. She can't get back in, so you might hear her crying, but she can get out. So I gave this one 4 stars. So just, again, nice, easy audiobook. And I feel you just never really know who the killer is going to be with Agatha Christie. So that's why they're classics. Then the first book I read was Maybe Now, is a Colleen Hoover book. So Maybe Someday is the first book in this series. And it's about a deaf guy and then his neighbor, and they kind of fall in love. They write stories, or they write songs together. So this is the sequel, and honestly, like, I think I gave 4 stars to Maybe Someday, and this one I gave 3, and I mean, maybe it would actually be 2. Like, it's not a bad story. It just, I don't know that it needed a sequel. Like, I mean, it's nice to see them together, but it just wasn't as good. I mean, it's an easy read. I could read it in a couple sittings, but I also, like, wasn't super into it. So I like the Maggie storyline, but at the end, there's a truly cringy moment where all the couples get engaged, and it just made me want to throw up a little bit. So maybe now. Sorry if I gave that away. Yeah, so maybe now. And then I read Small Favors, which is an Erin Craig book. So I've read her other book, which is House of Salt and Sorrow. So it's kind of like a gothic-y, like, not like a fairy tale retelling, but like fantasy, and like, but with like really ominous undertones. So I did like it. So I read Small Favors, and so this book cover is like flowers and honey, and I don't know how she made it look so ominous still. So the main character, I believe her name is Ellery. She lives in a town, and her like family is kind of like attacked. So her parents go away, and she's left to like keep the bees, which is their livelihood. And there are strangers that have come to town that like give people small favors, and just like bad things keep happening. Yeah, and so it's about her like trying to survive and keep her family going, and trying to figure out like who these mysterious people are. So I gave that one 4 stars. I feel like it started a little bit slow, but like it had a very creepy undertone, and it kept me wanting to read. The next one I listened to was The Ex Talk. So this was a romance that I felt like had a pretty good premise, but I don't love books that the premise is lying, like just lying to people. So these public radio, like there's a public radio talk show host, or she's a producer, and she's offered a talk show if she pretends that her and this coworker that she doesn't really like pretend that they are exes. So then they're gonna have the ex talk, and what do you know? People find out that they're lying, and I don't know. It just kind of seems like, was it necessary to have it all be based on a lie? So I gave it 3 stars. It was still like enjoyable. There was some good banter, but overall I didn't love the characters. Like, the guy was just kind of douchey, and yeah, I don't love the lie premise. So, but it was an easy listen. Like, I can't say like don't read it. It wasn't a bad book. Then I read True Biz, which was an April 2022 book of the month, so not very far behind with that. One of my book clubs read this book, so we will be discussing that in this next month whenever we get together. I have to let Mabel in because she's going to start crying, so please hold. All right. Yeah, so it'd be great if she could get in the screen door instead of just out, but she's back. So True Biz is the story of a girl who is raised by hearing parents, and they place a cochlear implant that she never really hears well out of, and they don't teach her sign language so that she will have to like read lips. And so in the beginning of the book, they get a divorce, and she is enrolled in a deaf school. And so she is learning sign language, and I think she's like 16. So she's had like all these behavioral issues because she can't communicate with people, and is like always overstimulated because the cochlear implant, like, she doesn't understand what it's doing, but it's just like sending like a lot of noise into her head. And then there's also like deaf royalty. So like the whole family is deaf, and there's people who their parents like injured them, and then people who their parents are super supportive. And one of the points of view is the principal, who is hearing but was raised by a deaf mom. And yeah, I really liked this book. I gave it 5 stars. kind of hidden throughout, not hidden, but throughout the book, there are like exercises, and like they kind of like teach you different things. And so they're like exercises that I think it's Charlie, the main character. Yeah, that Charlie is doing, but it's really cool to see, like, especially like American Sign Language compared to Black American Sign Language. That was super interesting. So 5 stars. I would highly recommend this one. It was a very good story, and it also like just taught me a lot about a community that I don't know about. I also found it very ironic that the first 2 books, like physical books that I read, had deaf characters in them. I feel like that's not a genre that you normally see. So that was my first 5-star of the month. And then I read Wilder Girls by Rory Power. So this is a book that I don't know who recommended it to me, but I've owned it for a while and just haven't read it. So this was a quick, like, I probably could have read it in a sitting or 2, but lots of work and lots of babies being born. So Wilder Girls is the story of Hetty is the main character, but there's also Byatt is her friend that they kind of do like mixed points of view. So they go to an all-girls school, and at some point they are infected by something that's like trying to turn them into like creatures. So like one girl has like a scaled arm, and some people just die, and like all of the animals on the island are really like wild and crazy and like growing extra limbs. And so I thought this book was very good. It was very like creepy and ominous and like kind of survivalist. But it just kind of like ends on a cliffhanger, and I don't know that there is another book. So, I mean, I don't mind kind of like a cliffhanger, but I feel like there's so much more to this story that would be interesting to know. So, yeah, Wilder Girls. I think I gave it 4 stars for just like intrigue alone, really. Then I listened to The Viscount Who Loved Me. So that is the second Bridgerton book. And I apparently don't have a picture of the cover. So just imagine Anthony Bridgerton and Kate. So I have been choosing to watch the season first because that's how I knew Bridgerton first, and I love it. And then I'm reading the books after. So I will not read the other books until the seasons come out. And I found that to be helpful in continuing to like the show because this book was very different. Like the 2 characters are the same, but where in the show Edwina and Antony are like, they're courting and Kate's not saying anything, and I found that very frustrating. Like, if you're in love with this man, you're not gonna let your sister get that involved with him. Like, I just didn't love that plot. So that doesn't actually happen in the book. So I actually kind of liked the book better as far as plot. So if you are planning to read them, I would read, like, they're great books. And I really liked the plot, but I also liked them being a little bit different because I didn't know what was gonna happen. So I gave that one 4 stars. And is it a bit of a predictable love story? Yes. But it was good, and I love the Bridgerton like cast and everything. The next like book that I read was Call Us What We Carry by Amanda Gorman. So this is a collection of poetry. I don't have a copy of that cover either. So I did not read it because I know nothing about poetry, and so my reading doesn't really mean anything. So this, like, the time that she was writing these poems was like pandemic, elections, race riots. So they're beautiful poems. They're very interesting. She's got a great perspective as a woman of color. So if you like poetry, I would definitely recommend Amanda Gorman. I'm sure you've heard of her because she performed some of her poetry at the inauguration of President Biden. And then I read a Catherine Center book, What You Wish For. So she is also the author of How to Walk Away and Things We Left in the Fire. Anyway, How to Walk Away for sure. And then, so this is a story of a school librarian who is working at a school, and their like beloved principal dies, and so a new principal is hired, and it just happens to be someone that she left her old school because she was in love with him, and she didn't think he even knew who she was. So she has to face all of that. The principal that comes in then is dealing with PTSD of something that happened in his old school. There's like, her books read so quickly and so well, and I love her characters, and but they also deal with kind of heavy stuff. So I would recommend this. I gave this 5 stars. So I think I read it in one sitting too. I love her writing. So what you wish for. The next book that I read was Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. So this is a story of Bea. Her drug-addicted mother dies in the beginning of the book, and she has to go and live with her dad before she goes to college. And he like really knows nothing about her because her mom kind of kept her away, and he also wasn't super invested. And so they kind of have to like tackle that relationship. She also falls in love with a boy who has a past, like, you don't know what his past is. He's very secretive. So you're trying to like piece things together. So yeah, I really liked this. I liked the characters. It read so quickly. So this is a perfect like beach read, poolside read. It deals with some heavier things, but it reads so fast. So I gave this one 4 stars. And then the last book that I read in June was Rock, Paper, Scissors. So this is by Alice Feeney. This was the book of the month in September of 2021. So this is a couple who, sorry, who for their anniversary goes to like this like chapel that's been converted into a house, and like creepy things are happening. There's chapters from the husband and the wife's perspectives, and then there are also letters from the wife to the husband. There's like a twist about midway through that explains a lot of what's going on and kind of how things aren't adding up. So like the premise was good. I don't know, it just wasn't super, like I thought it was gonna be like more of a thriller, more scary, where it was just a little twisted. So if you don't like super scary things, this would be a good book. So I gave this one, oh, I didn't rate this one yet. I feel like I would give it like 3 stars. Yeah, I think 3. Because it's certainly not one that I'm going to be like, you should go read this. But there was nothing wrong or offensive about it. It just wasn't as like thrillery as I wanted. So that was the last book that I read in June, but I had totally skipped over another audiobook that I finished, and that is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. So I gave this one 4 stars. So this is the story of Jessica Miller. She just like always felt overlooked like in her group of friends because they were super popular in college. So she kind of has been like thought she was overlooked, and so post-grad she's been really working to like be like the perfect woman and like kind of come back and like be the belle of the ball. So when she comes back, then all of this history is dragged up from college. So their senior year, one of their friends was murdered, and so the brother of the murdered sister is trying to figure out who did the murdering. The main character, Jessica, is not like, she's repressed a bunch of memories. So this was a great book. I felt like every time you thought you knew who the killer was, it like kind of went a different direction, and it was a good audiobook. It was easy to listen to, and yeah, I would recommend this one. I gave this one 4 stars. So I think I didn't give it 5 just because it took a while to get into, and the characters aren't super lovable. Like, they're kind of all have their own drama. So those are the books I read in June. I think it was 15 books. So like May was a lot more, but that was because I had a bunch of time off. And this summer I am doing a bunch of different like readathons. So I thought that would help me like pick out what books I want to read. So I'm doing the Summer Splash readathon. And then I'm also hoping to be part of like Summerween, which is, I think it's like the 3rd week of June, where you do like a couple of like Halloween type prompts. So one of them is read a book with a title like that has haunt in the title. So I think I'm gonna read The Haunting of House Hill. Hill House. Haunting of Hill House. And then there's one that's like read a book with Halloween covers on the front. So Halloween colors. I don't know what I just said. So Halloween colors on the front. So, I mean, you could really like read a romance that just has orange and black on the cover. So I haven't chosen all my books for that yet. But I'm really excited about my stack of books for the Summer Splash readathon. And I've already like finished like 2 books already this month. And it's only July 2nd. So I feel like it's going to be a good month because I plan to read a bunch of like beach reads and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I will see you next time.